Welcome to the Practice Brave podcast. I am the host, Brianna Battles, founder of Pregnancy and Postpartum Athleticism and CEO of Everyday Battles. I'm a career strength and conditioning coach, entrepreneur, mom of 2 wild little boys, and a lifelong athlete. I believe that athleticism does not end when motherhood begins, and this podcast is dedicated to coaching you by providing meaningful conversations, insights, and interview topics related to fitness, mindset, parenting, and of course, all the nuances of pregnancy and postpartum. From expert interviews to engaging conversations and reflections, this podcast is your trustworthy, relatable resource for learning how to practice brave through every season in your life. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Practice Brave podcast. Today I'm here with Ty Horn, and we got connected through social media because he talked about being strong in jiu-jitsu and why that's a good thing. And obviously, I approve of that message, and I'm really excited to have a conversation with him today about training, jiu-jitsu, and life, going from being an athlete in a different sport to finding jiu-jitsu a bit later in life, and then how strength training and fitness is so critical for that sport and also for how you show up in your family. So Ty, thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. So glad to talk to you.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
All right. Well, I was born. I'm born and raised in Waco, Texas, and I grew up and had a great family. And my sister was a phenomenal athlete. I played football. My parents were both raised very much so in a sports family for sure, but nothing crazy. My parents weren't super. They didn't pressure me or anything like that. I was thrown into football whether I liked it or not. I'm not saying I didn't like football, but I will say that I was more fixated on girls and skateboarding than I was football. And I went and played in college, and I had no idea that I was going to play in college. Like, no one told me that.
Okay.
I was like, I don't know, I'm going to go to Texas State and party, right? And then my junior year, these people were like, hey, we want to talk to you. And it's like, oh, okay. And so I kind of reluctantly was like, I guess I'll play football in college. And I played at TCU, and I was there. I got a lot of time on the field, played guard and tackle. And then my junior year, I got in some trouble. I got arrested for selling a delivery of marijuana charge along with a couple of my roommates. And that was a bad deal because I went from having in my mind everything mapped out, I was almost done with my degree, and I got removed from the campus. And so none of my hours would transfer to any other university. It was a big roadblock for me. You know, I was on felony probation, and we talked about earlier, but the stigma behind marijuana in Texas at that time was so much more, the stigma of it was so much worse than it is now. And so I was kind of ostracized by a lot of people that once respected me and loved me for football. And then all of a sudden was like, oh, you're a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
So that was hard. And I went from like the physical fitness aspect of that. I was always a person that loved strength conditioning. My favorite part of football was squats and sprints. I loved it. I don't know why. Maybe it was the camaraderie. Maybe it was just pushing yourself. I knew I liked that, right?
Yeah.
And then when I got in trouble, I came back to Waco, and I didn't really have an outlet for that anymore. And I won't say I didn't train, but I did like push-ups and ran a mile every once a week. Nothing, just enough to keep me sane. I did do some kickboxing stuff and sparred all during that time. But for like 3 years, I really didn't do anything. 3 or 4 years. That was like real training.
Right.
I found strongman. I went to high school with a guy who I ran into at a restaurant. He's like, dude, you need to come try strongman. Okay. And so my son had just been born. And I remember thinking to myself, I want my son to think I'm big and strong and cool, right? So I started lifting again, and religiously. And then that was like my son's almost 9. So I bet 8 years ago that I really started hitting the weights again hard. I did some powerlifting, did some strongman. And then 3.5 years ago, I found jiu-jitsu. And it was almost like all of that. I'm not a big like fate person, but it was almost like if I wouldn't have had strongman, I wouldn't have understood how to train for jiu-jitsu in regards to building that strength on the mat. Because what is strongman? Strongman is a It's contests where you're doing essentially functional fitness stuff, right? Have these sandbags and that unconventional strength is what you need in jiu-jitsu to where you can actually apply it. I've had a lot of guys, actually, a guy that started jiu-jitsu with me was a much higher level powerlifter than me, close to 900 deadlift, 500 bench, 700 squat, big numbers. And I remember thinking, okay, this guy is stronger than me. But on the mat, it was like, we're about the same size. On the mat, right. It was like playing with a little kid because he couldn't apply that strength. And what I equated that to was barbell exercises are great. And they are a very, very essential part of building your base of strength and your base physiology and stuff like that. It's a quintessential part of it. But at the end of the day, I found that all my functional fitness strength things were what was really helping me on the mat. And I noticed immediately, when I started my Instagram page thing, it started as a training journal. I consciously wanted to be able to go back and show my son, like, look, I used to be strong back in my day, right? So it was just me recording lifts and saying how much they were and all that stuff. And then I just started to notice that the attitude in jiu-jitsu that a lot of people had, and you know what, even since I started, it's improved. The attitude that people had towards strength and conditioning, because jiu-jitsu is supposed to be about the technique, right?
Right.
Well, what strength does for you on the mat is it widens your net for being able to catch those techniques. You don't have to be quite as perfect on that angle you cut for the Kimura for the Kimura trap. You don't have to be quite as of good a bite on your head arm choke because you're crushing someone's face, right? So all it does now, and technique is superior to strength, right? That's at the end of the day, that's what really matters. But it's one of those things where I just couldn't wrap my mind around the attitude of you don't need weights for jiu-jitsu. It's like bullshit. Look at Olympic level judicas or wrestlers. They lift, right? Yeah. This is a combat sport. It's the same principle. We need to be lifting for it. I don't like super sport specific stuff or anything like that, but just being able to provide yourself with the resilience that lifting builds too.
Yeah.
No one's bulletproof and no one is immune to injury, but damn, it sure is a hell of a lot easier to take a slam to the mat when you're carrying a lot of muscle.
Yeah, when you're slightly durable.
You're pretty durable, weak shit breaks, right? So that's kind of how I got into it. And that's how I train today. I don't have any this part's weird. My whole life was how strong can you get? What's your 1 rep max? Even in football, that was the attitude. And I went from, especially in strongman, was like, I'm focusing on these. I weighed like 370 when I first started. And I got down to like 300 pounds real quick just because of the cardio of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And not focusing on bulking, obviously. That made me stop focusing on the big lifts as far as how much I can do for 1 rep. And then made me start focusing on the total picture of what I need for grappling. And so I feel like I'm still in the process of honing what that means for me and what that means for other people. And I do feel like what I'm trying to accomplish, I genuinely, my favorite part of this whole thing with Instagram is being able to provide people with information that will be advantageous to them, that will help them. I feel strongly that most people's biggest problem in regards to their strength and conditioning on the mat is they didn't spend the time to build that scaffolding and that base up to the point where you have created that resiliency and created the explosiveness and stuff like that. I think it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think a lot of people could greatly benefit from focusing on improving strength on the mat, because at the end of the day, if something is easier, you're able to do it more efficiently. You don't get tired,
No, absolutely. And I think it provides a great foundation of fitness, which then can be positively applied to, like you said, preventing injury. Yes. And then being able to apply, ultimately, so many of us do jujitsu to be able to defend ourselves, protect ourselves, others. And you need a foundation of not just technique, but also fitness capacity to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that in a bit. But I actually want to rewind a little bit to talk about your transition from being a D1 college athlete, looked at as big, strong dude who was really successful, to then having to go home, being ostracized. and then figuring out what your new identity is. Because I think so many athletes actually struggle with that transition from, I am an athlete, I'm a football player, I am this, I am that, to like, well, now what?
Now what?
Now what? What do I do? How do I identify? Where do I put my time and energy and efforts? And sometimes you see the pendulum swing of people getting like really hyper focused on exercise. Like, I'm going to sign up for a half marathon and I'm going to drop 20 pounds. Or on the other end of the spectrum is, I've gained 60 pounds and I'm really sedentary because I don't know what to do with my life. And I feel like when you've been in like collegiate athletics realm, you truly see people go each way after they're done with sports.
It's one or the other. And
yeah.
You know where that's really true too? And I'm sure there's other things that are similar to this. I was an offensive lineman, right?
Yeah.
So I was forced to be a certain size.
Yeah.
And so when I stopped playing football, I went, hey, look, no one's telling me to be over 320 pounds right now. So I got down to like 250. And
wow.
I looked really silly because my head is very big. And so I looked like a lollipop because I was like skinny and like, yeah, anyway. It was really tough. And you're so right about like, it goes one way or the other, because I have so many friends that were top hand in college physically. And then now it's like, they let it go big time, especially linemen. Linemen either get super fat or super skinny. That's how it goes, right? Yeah. I'm the weird one that stayed the same weight throughout the whole time. So,
well, but I think that there's like actually a lot to be said for that, because, and that's not to say that you won't experience that, but then it's like the path of trying to find your way to what's actually a healthy homeostasis for you now, like where you are. I mean, I believe in pursuing a lifetime of athleticism, that you can always be an athlete, and what that looks like will look different through every season of life as we age, if we are lucky. And I think for a lot of people, being an athlete is black or white. Like they'll say, well, I was an athlete. I'm like, well, like you can still be an athlete. And that part's not over, but how you participate and what that looks like for you. Maybe we have to just redefine what that looks like and figure out how it can best support where you are and who you are right now.
I think it's funny that we're talking about, I posted about this 2 days ago. I was talking to one of my friends. He played at Tulsa. He's All-American defensive tackle at Tulsa. And he's at my house. And we were talking about that, like how, and now he trains jiu-jitsu. And we want to just like grab our teammates and shake them and be like, dude, this is it. Yeah. This is what we're missing. I loved physical contact. Maybe, I was telling my wife about it yesterday, maybe that's my love language. Maybe touch is even if it's rough touch.
Aggressive touch.
Yeah, aggressive, right?
Yes.
So like, I remember before jiu-jitsu, like craving physical contact, craving, like I told you, I used to kickbox and stuff. I used to just like, I haven't trained in 6 months, but I'm going to go in here, I'm just going to fight these guys and like get it out of my system, you know? And I did that for a while. And then it was like a conscious, like, holy shit, this is it moment when I got done with a jiu-jitsu class. I kicked some people's ass and got my ass kicked a couple times. And I thought, I had a big smile on my face because I thought, oh my God, I found it. This is actually, if I'd have known, see, I'm in Texas. We don't have wrestling. We do, but that we do now. And public schools have it now, but I didn't go to private school, so I didn't wrestle. And didn't have the opportunity growing up. I think that physical contact was, for lack of it's almost a cliche, but like to get my aggression out. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu was it. And I felt so lost when I was out of football. I felt so like, what is the point of me? And I dove in and had some struggles with drugs and alcohol and depression and anxiety and all that stuff. And I'm not saying I'm perfect now, but as far as mental health wise, mental health is something that I struggle with every day, like most of us. And I will say, like you talked about homeostasis, finding that homeostasis of what works for you over a sustainable time period is what really matters. I was like the holidays, right? The holidays messed me up because the kids are home. I work from home from my building job and the kids are here and everything gets all screwed up. No one's training.
Oh, I know.
I don't want to go train. And so like, I don't know. And then I become an absolute mess. I'm like, I'm a mess and just not okay. And that's what I've always known that. I always knew that it's like a dog. Like if a dog is digging holes in the backyard and acting a fool, take it for a fucking run, right?
Yeah.
That's what, we're no different.
I tell everyone, like, I have to take my brain out on a walk. I'm like a hyperactive dog where that's why I will run and go on a walk, is because there's so much going on. And if I don't do that, and people are like, oh, you like train so much, you do so much. I'm like, right. Like I kind of have to, like, I have to exercise my brain that way so that my energy and my life and my overall like happiness is dialed in. Otherwise, if I don't get that activity and that outlet, it's not good. It's just not good.
What happens to you when you're not in your rhythm?
I think I just sort of shut down, and it's hard for me to be focused on the things I need to be focused on. So like my creativity shuts down.
Do you push people away?
Yeah, I just sort of like, I pull away. My mom's like, I always know when you're in a funk because you just don't talk to me. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I know. And it's because like, I can't like go there. So then I just sort of like retreat a little bit. And usually my friends like kind of call it the flu. Like I get like my own a mental flu where there's nothing they can say, nothing anyone can do. I just have to like go through it. Sometimes it's just a couple days, other times it's longer. And it's been at different points in my life, whether it was like postpartum or just like big life transitions, even like moving here, before moving here to Idaho. Like, and then that obviously so much reflects, or I mean, I guess affects our physical health. So I will even look back on pictures and I can sort of tell the state of my mental health based on what my body looked like at different points in times.
Me too.
And I don't think people realize the extent that our mental health really affects our physical health, even if like we're still exercising. Like I've been training literally my entire life. I never stopped, but how we participate in the rest of our life, you can physically see that.
I can tell when my training is very much so going through the motion. I'm going to train no matter what.
Yeah.
I will say that I don't really miss training ever.
Yeah.
I might have a week like where I get that same flu and I'm like, and then I feel really guilty and I come back and hit it hard. But when I'm going through the motions and I'm not excited about training and I'm not training with intent, that's when I'm in that state. And I push people away. I'm not social when I'm not training and in a good positive headspace. And it's funny you talk about your mom. Like my mom's my boss. She writes my checks. She's the accountant.
Yeah.
And I operate independently as a contractor from my dad and my mom. So I still have to have this correspondence with her. And she can tell when I don't call just for fun and I'm only calling for work. She's like, are you okay? And yes.
Moms always know.
If I'm calling mama, then everything's good. But if I'm not, it's not good. Yeah.
That really is the test, I think, if you have a good relationship with your mom. Okay, let's talk about jiu-jitsu and mental health, because I think a lot of people are like, jiu-jitsu is so good for my mental health, but they don't even really know why. I'll share for me, it's the only activity I've ever found as an athlete, and I have done a lot of different sports and fitness ventures. It's the only sport I've ever done that keeps me fully present and in the moment, because you can only focus on what is happening to you and also like what your reaction needs to be. You cannot be thinking about that email. You can't be thinking about that shitty fight you had. You can't be thinking about all these things. It's the only thing that has ever kept my hyperactive brain in the moment, ever. The only sport, the only activity.
Oh, me too. I've never even thought about that. But when you play a team sport, there's room for you to go, okay, the ball's over there. Like I'm fucking chilling, whatever. But in jiu-jitsu, I think about that sometimes where you ever like, this is abstract, but do you ever like you're rolling with somebody and like you make a wrong move, but you like made it consciously? Like, oh shit, that was the wrong. Like you have to be right there. You have to be fully invested. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that it makes you focus on the here and now, which that's a good metaphor for the rest of our lives anyway, is focus on the present. Right? To me, it symbolizes the struggle that we all go through as humans. And whether you get beat or you do the beating, there's a lesson to be learned there. There's always, you're never going to reach a point where you go, okay, I did it. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. I don't need to do it anymore. I don't need to lift weights anymore. Shit's done. Like whatever. Because of that kind of never finished mentality is what is good for my mental health, because I I thrive on that. I thrive on the idea like you're not strong enough and you're not good enough. Not in a toxic way, but just
Right.
in a keep me coming back kind of way.
Well, right. And, we look at sports like football, or for me, like water polo. I grew up playing those sports, and there is an end to that particular sport. It's most likely high school for the majority of people. And then for the next majority, it's college. You're probably not going to play pro. And then some people go on and they play pro, whatever that looks like in whatever given sport that is. But even that, ultimately, that has an end game. Like,
there's
you
only
retire.
a couple sports. There's only a couple sports anyway that have that other level, like,
right.
or for a career sake.
Exactly.
And that's not even worth talking about,
right,
because it's such a rare deal.
Right. But then we have a sport like jiu-jitsu where I tell my boys, I'm like, this is not even a sport for you. This is a life skill and something that you can have that will follow you throughout your entire life, whether you do it a lot or a little. It is something that you can always come back to at any given point in your life. And it is a skill set that's obviously on and off the mat, but ultimately it supports that notion of what does it look like to pursue a lifetime of athleticism? You can do it at 4, you can do it at 14, 44, or 84. Like, there are so few sports that truly represent that, like, movement and fitness methodology and belief system.
I always equate it to golf, because you can play golf your whole life. And the satisfaction I don't know if you play golf or not, but I do a little bit, but
no,
I'm not great. I can break 100, but it's the same satisfaction when you hit a really good, like, ooh, that was a smooth bow and arrow choke. That feels a lot like hitting a good drive. It's like just crisp, feels right. And you can, and same thing. You're not going to leave the golf course and go, I'm done. I'm a golfer now. Like, and you can always go back to it. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I always end up being people's, like, emotional support animal.
I can see that. You're like a big Labrador.
I'm a big teddy bear, and I like to help people, and I like to make people feel good about themselves. That's what makes me happy, is to, like, encourage people and stuff like that. And so a lot of times I'll talk to people about their jiu-jitsu stuff, and they're like, man, haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, I just haven't been able to train. And they feel really, really guilty about not training. But what you just said about it being a journey that you can pick it up and put it down, pick it up and put it down. Is that ideal? No. Ideally, you should, if you're focused on it, you should train all the time.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, let's say you train jiu-jitsu for 2 years, you got your blue belt, and you quit, like every blue belt does. It's like, why does the human mind, why do we have this, like, finality or all or nothing mentality?
Right.
Where it's like, oh, I haven't been in a year, like, I can't go back. Like, why?
Right.
Like, if it can go anywhere, I always tell people, jiu-jitsu is not going anywhere.
No. And, like, for it, almost like, we talk so much in our sport and in business about having our self-development, like this growth mentality, but there's very few physical outlets, especially for adults, that almost forces that installation of a growth mentality. And that forces the nature of hard work, where, like, you can be really athletic and really strong and still get your ass kicked. And you're like, damn, like, fitness didn't actually save me this time. Like, and I had to get to a place where, like, I didn't start jiu-jitsu till I was in my early 30s and a mom. And more importantly, that at a place where I was humble enough to be a beginner again and to not be good. And everyone says, I wish I would have started earlier. Like, I freaking don't. I would have been so toxic, and I still struggle with, like, the toxic. Yeah. And I still struggle with that. It brings out so much of, like, I've been poked, all this, like, athletic maturity I like to think that I have. And then, like, the wrong buttons get pushed, and I'm like, damn, I'm being like a bitch, or I'm feeling, like, really mad, or I'm, like, pissed in the car on the ride home, or I'm crying over this like a freaking 13-year-old girl again. Like, because it pokes the things that need to be poked in you. Well, and I think it's hard.
That's okay, though, because it's okay that it makes you feel that way, because that just means that you care about it, right? And if you didn't care about it, you wouldn't have those feelings. And people kind of criticize the idea of making something your identity.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I've felt that way about people before. Like, dude, there's more to life than jiu-jitsu. Right. There's more to life than whatever. But, like, just people just need to do what makes them happy. Like, if that's what I feel guilty all the time when I haven't picked up my guitar in a while.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I worked so hard to be where I am now with it. And like, just haven't picked it up. I guess I won't pick it up again because I'm rusty.
Yeah.
You know, I get upset over jiu-jitsu sometimes where not from losing or from that, but I get frustrated with like my own personal drive to, like we were talking about earlier, where like I have days where I'm like full blown autistic, like in the middle of the uke and the professor, like, trying to learn. And then I have other days where I'm like, all right, well, let's roll.
Yep.
I get down on myself when I'm not feeling like super pumped about it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's kind of like as a parent too. It's kind of like as a parent where you feel guilty for, you feel guilty when you haven't, when you feel like you haven't spent enough time with them, or you feel like you haven't been, I don't know. It's just kind of similar.
Yeah. It's like, it brings out the best in you and can also bring out the worst in you. And it's just figuring out how to like use it as a tool to support. Like, it's how awesome is it that we get to be in this season of life as parents in our 30s with careers, and we have an element of play and an element of like self-development, and then something that you care about. Like, there's so many, and I always see this like, well, like when you're at sport practices or games of our kids, and I'm like, man, what would solve so much of these parents just criticizing their kids and yapping and be getting their ass kicked, or at least still competing and training in something that's fulfilling for them. So they're not like living vicariously through their kids. Like, I feel like there's just such an opportunity with this sport to really like, I mean, it just unlocks so much.
I can't handle that. Like,
oh, I know.
I mean, like you played sports at a high level. You lived that life. I have lived that. When I hear the guy who didn't even play on the 8th grade B team yelling at his son, making him feel like lower than, I'm like, dude, you need to stop taking this so seriously. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, because they're going to ruin it. They're going to literally ruin it for their kids. And any chance that their kid had of being successful and not being burned out is taken from them, not from their own ability, but from the parents like trying to like push that on them, making it toxic.
That's an interesting topic too, that jiu-jitsu gets to expose, is how many people that didn't play sports at all growing up, for whatever reason, actually ended up being like phenomenal athletes. And then they find that out later in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Like, I don't know. My wife's a good example. She didn't grow up playing sports, but by God, we kind of figured out that she's a really good athlete. Yeah. She was like overweight growing up, and then she lost a bunch of weight. And so she never played sports. Yeah. And then now it's like, wait a minute. Are you like you have like really good hands and like really good at both? What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah. And you're like not chronically injured with like injuries you've had from all the overuse and stuff. It is fun to see like jiu-jitsu attracts so many different humans and like avatars of humans. And it creates this melting pot of people who can have friendships, to kind of circle that back to like the mental health component of jiu-jitsu and why it's so powerful. It's like it creates a community, but not a community where it's like your own echo chamber. It's a community where you get a lot of diverse backgrounds and, people and what their interests are, what their history is. Like, you're a big dude and like I'm a fairly small-ish girl, and we could equally be on the mats, and like it levels the playing field a little bit and creates that connection and camaraderie. That's true. There's a dichotomy. I don't care if I get canceled for saying it, but I'm going to go ahead and publicly have a call to arms for all Black people. We need more Black people in jiu-jitsu. Oh, yeah. We need more like high caliber athletes. And I'd sound stupid, but there's a couple guys that played football at Baylor. They come roll with us. And I'm like, I don't know if you realize this, but you could be a professional fighter in like 2 years if you just applied yourself to it. And absolutely. I don't know. And obviously not Black people, but it's good when a good athlete comes to the match too, because you can kind of take the gloves off a little bit with them, and that's always fun. But totally. Yeah. Just bringing in like more diversity in general, like, just seeing, like just more access to jiu-jitsu, and then, getting more women on the mats, just like more people in general. Like there's so many elements where like this sport can be so positive, whether you want to take it to a high level because you have that athletic upside, or because you just like need that element of community, of something you do twice a week. You want to know how to protect yourself. You want to do something really healthy for you. It's just something that's really empowering, especially like a lot of women don't even realize like it is such a critical
skill set to have.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where we'll start talking about the fitness part. But like, it's one thing to be strong, it's one thing to run, but lifting weights and being able to run fast, that's like not really going to save your life. In a really shitty situation, that's not going to be the thing. Like, your fitness is a benefit, but it is not like a guarantee that doesn't mean you know how to defend yourself. And going to a one-time self-defense class doesn't mean you know how to defend yourself.
I'll tell you something. This girl right here, she ain't leaving the house till she's a blue belt.
Hey, girl.
At least, she's already gotten her feet wet with some grappling at the house with her and brothers.
Yeah.
So, no, it's important. I think that you could have the fittest CrossFit athlete of all time, and they'll gas in 2 minutes trying to wrestle their hardest.
Oh, totally. And then, and I tell people that, like, when you get like the new white belts, it's like, just from a fitness perspective, like, if you can't control your breath and you can't control your tension, then you're going to be smoked so much earlier. So like, the best thing you can do from a fitness perspective is like be able to really leverage your breath control. And with a background in swimming, that actually came really natural to me, because I can like manage my breathing pretty well.
Yes.
That capacity. But then with the tension, like, you're just constantly like framing and trying to like, and you're exhausted because you're exerting like this isometric contraction the whole time in defense mode, or just trying to like muscle your way through everybody. That's a tough thing to overcome.
That's funny. I didn't even think about this till now, but one of my friends at my gym in Waco, Steven, he played water polo.
Oh, yeah.
And he has stupid endurance. And you can tell it's not necessarily just physical endurance. It's also just like he knows how to play cool, how to chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first day ever in jiu-jitsu, I went in, like, I mean, I was 6'6", 370 pounds and played football. Like, I can handle myself okay, and
yeah.
I was throwing some blue belts around and getting in side control and feeling like, oh yeah, I got this. The professor's about 5'11", 165 pounds, skinny, and he armbarred me in like 5 seconds. And
I love that.
That's what made me fall in love with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not like you're somebody who easily gets thrown around, but if somebody has this high level skill set, then you're going to get owned. And that's like, I think that's a really great thing for people, athletic people, to be humbled, and maybe less athletic people to be exposed and know, like, there is an opportunity here for me to improve my fitness, but also be able to defend myself and do it in an environment where you're supported and you're learning a new skill set. Like, you get like the mental stimulation and the physical development.
You said something earlier that I've never heard or thought about. You said athletic maturity, and golly, what a topic. That's a great topic.
Damn, that's like one of my favorite sentiments. And I know that came across, I don't know how that came into my brain, but it was one of those things, because I was like, there's nothing that forces you to mature faster than becoming a mom, at least for me.
There you go.
In my maturity as an athlete, because you have to reassess your relationship with your body, your relationship with food, and what you want to pass on to your kids. I wanted to put all of that stuff away. I had to like sort of put all of those things on the back burner, because that's not how I wanted to show up as an athlete. And now your time is different. Your capacity is different. Your body is different. All of these things are different. And through getting your ass kicked through parenthood, you realize you just develop more maturity in your approach, in your relationship with your body, in your relationship to like what it means to be healthy and fit. All of that just evolves a bit. And sometimes motherhood and parenthood forces that evolution.
You ain't lying, because you ever, and I don't mean this any kind of way, but like, whenever you hear somebody complaining about not having time and they don't have kids, and you're like, you don't even know, brother, like not have time. Like, oh, you didn't feel like it? I didn't feel like it either. And I think that when you have kids, like you said, it forces you to like, too bad, this is what we're doing today. And, oh, we all have the stomach bug and all the, whatever. And you don't have a choice. I think that jiu-jitsu makes you either mature real quickly or quit. And how many people come in for a couple classes and they can't handle the losing and they leave?
Right. Absolutely. You have to be willing to be a beginner and like have that, again, that athletic maturity and I love that. I guess like willingness to be humbled and to like not be good. And I think when you do have some sort of athletic history, you're like, you have certain expectations and standards for yourself where you're like, well, I'm like athletic compared to these people. I should be able to do better. And then there's so many times, even with like my comprehension, where I'm just like, how am I not getting this? Like, I feel so uncoordinated and I'm like fairly coordinated and I can't pick up on this. And then there's other people who maybe aren't as athletic as me and they just pick up on it so fast. And that's because this sport goes so far beyond the physicality nature. It's like it's the mental and emotional and physical regulation and comprehension and learning styles, honestly.
I have a really, really hard time with watching someone perform a technique and then going, okay, I'm going to do it now.
Right.
I cannot do it. Like I might as well just check out and then work through it with my training partner as we go.
Oh, yeah.
I can't, I like my brain doesn't work that way. When I go, I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, I know.
But then when I drill it, I do it a couple times, then I know it. And
well, I think that's the other part of being an athlete is we are so conditioned to learn like through moving. Like we're just tactile learners. Like I need to physically feel it, like maneuver my body into the right place, put my arm over here, like physically move me, and then I'm going to get it. Like if my body can get those reps, but if you explain it to me, I can't do it. If I watch something on Instagram, I'm like, what? Like I have it saved, but then like that's about as far as it goes because it's so hard for me to like retain or be like, what did they do there? Because I don't see it. Like I'm not visual. It doesn't work like that. I have to physically move through it.
Learning styles are tricky. And I was laughing last week, because I have a client right now that I'm building a house for. And he is also a contractor. So he's savvy. Like he just lives in a different part of the state. And so it's easier for me to build it. He starts rattling off all these dimensions and stuff to me about, outside to outside of this purlin is going to be this. And I'm like, dude, you're going to have to, I understand everything you say if you like text it to me and I can like digest it. But when you start rattling, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
I know.
I promise you, I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but
yeah, just not in this format.
No, not in this format.
Yeah. Oh, I fully get that. That's where like
draw me a picture.
Yeah, exactly. Draw me a picture or like show me, walk me through it. Then I tell my training partners on, I'm like, this is my ADHD. This is just really hard for me to learn that way. But once I like my move through it, then I'm going to get it because then I'll feel it. And I think that that's an important part to talk about too. Like whether you're partnered up in jiu-jitsu or you're coaching jiu-jitsu or you're participating in it. It's like, there's multiple learning styles and ways to digest what you're being taught. And you are not dumb if you don't get it or you don't get the concept at first. Like it is a forever learning process. And there's so many things still that I'm like, why I should have learned that at white belt. Why don't I know this? Almost like a basic white belt concept that right now at purple belt, I'm like, this is freaking new to me. I don't know how I missed that one. I say that all the time.
I had one today where, like, in theory, I should be really, really good at head-arm triangles.
Yeah.
In theory. I've never been great at finishing them. And then one of the instructors today, Stephen Oliveras, his black belt guy, he's like, sink your hips down and then go back into it. Yeah. And then the rest of the class, I was hitting arm neck triangles left and right. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I felt like an idiot because, dude, I know that. I know to do that. I just forgot.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And then when you start to like realize, and this might not be for everybody listening, but where you get to the point in your jiu-jitsu where you're like, all right, I kind of know what my wheelhouse is. And I know like where my wheelhouse isn't, whether that's based on my size, my whatever, my abilities, my previous injuries, or frankly, just like the style that you gravitate towards. It's been really interesting where for a while I was kind of trying to do stuff that just like wasn't really in my wheelhouse. And I'm like, why do I suck at this? I'm like, well, I suck at this because like that's just not my given game or my style, but you don't really know that when you're first learning. So I feel like when you're first learning, yes, you just have to give yourself an abundance of grace and know that as time goes on, you're going to figure out like, this isn't really my thing, but this other side of jiu-jitsu definitely is. And, you have to find coaches and partners and people that can like help you kind of unlock that. But that's all part of that athletic development, just in a different way.
Well, and while we call it jiu-jitsu, I still very strongly feel that I'm into submission grappling in general. Like you said, you went to a wrestling class. I want to let people criticize jiu-jitsu. It's like, okay, I don't even do just jiu-jitsu. I do judo and wrestling and jiu-jitsu, And so I think you hit the nail on the head where, and I've tried to post about this before, but it's hard to put into words in a post of like, we all like have our baseline attributes of things that we'll be inherently good at. And like you start with jiu-jitsu stuff where, okay, let's say you're really, really good at triangles. You have the body type to be really, really good at triangles, but you never hit them. You're missing out, right? Or, for example, I am terrible at Darce chokes. I have a lot of skeletal muscle. It is really hard for me to get all that into the thing. So I don't even try to do it. It'd be like if you were a football player and you had the body type of a wide receiver, but you were trying to play sumo with the big boys down the trenches. It's not going to go well.
100%.
You have to be able to pick and find and use what works well.
Yeah. And when you're a beginner, it's like you don't even know to think like that. And so I guess if you're like a beginner, like listening to this episode, you're just like, well, but we were practicing triangles and I'm so frustrated because I don't get it. And I remember thinking that, like, I feel so uncoordinated trying to set up a triangle. Which direction do I move? What leg goes where? Where's the arm going? But then I'm like, yeah, I got like a big butt and I'm short. Like, this is just not my thing. This isn't my movement. But like in other positions and other submissions, okay, like that is a little bit more in alignment with like what my natural baseline of potential is. It's not that I can't do a triangle. It's just like, well, that's probably not going to be my first look from that position. And that's okay.
What's your like, most of the time I'm going to hit this submission sequence? Like, what is your favorite thing?
Okay. Well, like I love like a hard, really athletic, like knee slice, like basic bitch knee slice. And then I like to work between like side control and north south. I like to set up a lot of different chokes from there and then get into technical mount and set up stuff from there too.
That's actually my exact game. I treat side control and north south as one thing. And I just float around them. And then I'll what are you doing? You showing her the army move? I use from the like half north south, half side control position. I use that to swing to mount, which often turns into technical mount. That's funny. That's literally what I do, like almost consciously every game, everything.
Yeah, because I think it's like when you're strong and you can be really explosive, but you also know how to like time it. So like again, that just kind of falls into maybe what your upside is as an athlete with your body, with your background of athleticism, and just like what you prefer. Whereas like I don't really want to play a lot of like open guard. Like my legs aren't super long. That's like really dynamic. And if anything, I'm just gonna like try to wrestle up because it's more in my wheelhouse. So, but I spent so long trying to like comprehend open guard. And like, that's just like isn't really my thing. Why do I suck? And it was just so demoralizing. But I think it's just, again, it's all part of the growth process of figuring out like, what do you prefer? What do you like? Okay, you need to know how to do these things. You need to be familiar with it, but that might not be your first one or two looks, and that's okay.
Yeah, I remember I always try to tell white belts and new people this. If you spent your first 6 months in jiu-jitsu, forget the submissions, man. You don't need to even worry about that yet. You need to worry about escaping. You need to worry about understanding the large underlying principles that you're trying to accomplish.
Which is hard because you want to like get in there and like feel like you want that dopamine hit of like being good, of being successful, of not getting your ass beat. But that's why like that's I think what is ultimately the real dopamine hit is knowing that like you're there to get your ass beat. You're there to because that's going to make you better and it keeps you kind of coming back for more. It's like this like ultimate delayed gratification of every time you feel like you kind of got something, the next like galaxy of shit that you don't know gets exposed and you're like, well, here we go. It's just, that dopamine hit like never really lasts that long.
You ain't never done. You ain't never done.
Never done. But that is the addicting part of that is like, I probably won't deadlift 300 pounds again. Maybe I could if I wanted to like progress to that, but I don't need to. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, like I can keep getting better in different ways instead of like chasing one set data point or outcome.
Yeah. I never had a great deadlift, like conventional deadlift for my weight class, like in comparison to what other like higher level lifter guys, like I wasn't that great. The most I ever deadlift conventional was 700. And that was like last place at the strongman contest. So I felt like, and I just think it's funny how refocusing on, here's a question for you. At what point you're strong and athletic and you have a base physiology of a lifetime of fitness and training and stuff like that. At what point does your lack of general strength start affecting your performance on the mat? But I know that's a really tricky thing because it's not like necessarily tangible, because it's going to coincide with your game and what you do. And all this. I don't know.
You know what's funny is like, I'm not in the gym. I'm not as strong as I used to be, but I'm a better athlete than I ever was.
Oh, well, and you probably have better control than you've ever had.
Yeah, like, and I feel, and like on the mat, like something I'm told all the time, and not in the like insulting way, but in the like, you're like just really strong. I like my base, and it's more of like just your body awareness and body control and like leveraging your body. One of the first things I was told on day one of jujitsu was, if you're going to be a girl in jujitsu, be as freaking heavy as you can. And I was like, okay, like I can remember that. But it's been something where even if I don't feel like I'm necessarily as strong as I used to be, it is so transferable to just being strong, period. Not just strong for a mom, not just strong for a woman, not just strong, whatever. Like, it's just, I'm just strong. And I can match that in most cases. Even with a lot of guys, I can like hang in there through leverage, through body awareness, through just like basic mechanics. And then you add on top of that the technique side of jujitsu. And it's something that is such a gift. And I think that so many people think like, oh, I'm just like not as strong as I used to be. But if you have a foundation of strength, and it doesn't have to be, like lifting super heavy all the time, but a foundation of strength will only continually serve you, whether you do jujitsu or not. It's absolutely something that will give you so much longevity, less injury, and just a better quality of life.
Oh, I mean, my parents, they're such a good example for me of how they go about they still are very, very active in fitness and training, 3 and 4, they're 62 years old and they train 2-3 times a week with weights and stuff like that. And then they both play pickleball like every day. And I was like,
yeah,
my mom doesn't have orthopedic issues because she moves her body. And that's what really matters to me is, like you said, it's a long game. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
I don't have any desire anymore. And you know what? If it is your desire to if you're a strength athlete, that's different. I don't ever want to make people feel like what they're doing is not valid or whatever. But if you're a powerlifter or strongman, that's your thing. But I can't think of any other scenario where 1 rep max strength really matters anymore.
No, it doesn't, especially if you're like trying to be just like a really versatile athlete, which again, that's going to give you the most longevity in sport and in general. And so I see like a lot of times people that try to like share information on strength training or fitness for jujitsu, like they're sort of trying to simulate sport specificity of jujitsu by like doing some like weird move with the cable or like, I don't know, like some dynamic thing. And I'm like, leave the dynamic jujitsu sport specific stuff for jujitsu and then just get freaking strong, like build a foundation as a well-rounded athlete. And that will be the sport specificity you need in your sport. But it's like we're miss it.
You're exactly right. I think that sometimes I will incorporate certain semi-sport specific things for fun.
Yes.
Yesterday, I posted a thing of me doing sled shrimps. Do I really believe that doing shrimps with a sled is going to make my shrimp that much better? No, I don't. I am doing it because I'm simulating the movement that I use every day.
Right.
And if I can add weight to it, it'll make me tired. And
it's an accessory movement to the other things that you're doing.
The other thing, what I did before that? I did front squats, I did overhead press, and I did Romanian deadlift. So that's something I always think about too. You know how like social media and people in general, everybody wants the easiest, quickest, best cheat code way to do everything, right?
Oh, I know.
Especially fitness and diet and stuff like that. So I feel like most people are focused on fine details when they really need to focus on some big picture shit.
Exactly. They do the little rocks instead of the big rocks.
But people are like, I feel like shit all the time and I'm tired and I can't recover from my workouts. Are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you putting things in your body you shouldn't? And that's what people need to worry about first before they start doing some crazy niche exercise with their hip flexor. Like maybe you should be able to squat your ass off before you worry about or run sprints until you're worried about the little weird accessory stuff.
I mean, but that's like the whole thing with the health and fitness industry in general is like we get so hyper focused on the little rocks that we totally miss like the fundamentals of just like, are you lifting? Are you walking? Are you sleeping? Are you eating kind of balanced macros?
Yeah.
Like we want to skip over all of that and then go straight for the sauna and the red light and the like extreme diet and the very like specific moves that, well, this is going to fix X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, you know what would really fix that is being able to deadlift well so that you know how to hinge, so that when you go to jiu-jitsu or when you go play golf, you have trained a movement pattern that's actually going to help you in those environments, whether you're recreational or competitive.
No, that's exactly right. That's like my son, he's pretty good at basketball, and he's always working like all the really cool, fancy ball handling stuff. And he's pretty good at it, so I can't really say anything. But I'm like, hey, you need to work on your layup, brother. like that's what's really, like, I don't mean to be mean, but like your layup sucks. Like you need,
True.
You need to work on it.
That is so true.
It's just fun to work on the things that feel cool, I guess, at the end of the day. But
no, and I mean, and it's like, we can say all of this because I think people get confused. Like they see so much on social media with like, well, what should I be doing? What should I not be doing? But ultimately, if you're doing a sport, something that is so dynamic, so reactive, so explosive, like jiu-jitsu, where it requires like, honestly, every element of our physiology, like it's anaerobic, it's aerobic, like you're using strength, you're using like technique. There's just so many different elements of fitness and performance that are in one sport. And then it's different the next round and the next round against different people. So like you're constantly in this state of not really knowing what to expect next. Like that in and of itself is an athletic element that we have to train for. So I think so many people see everything on social media with like, what should I be doing? What should I not be doing? But ultimately it does just come back to the basics of, are you lifting in a way that prepares you for the athletic demands of that sport?
Of that sport, that's right.
Of that sport. Like, and so that means really prioritizing being a well-rounded athlete, not trying to do some fancy moves and some stuff that's like, okay, I guess that sort of simulates like, I don't know, whatever, like we just see so many different like jiu-jitsu simulation exercises in the gym. But if you're not hitting the main lifts and doing like the accessories that are going to keep you safe and reduce your chances of injury and just overall creating a more durable human for a sport that is very physically demanding.
Oh yeah.
With a high incidence of injury, sometimes you're unlucky, other times your body's just not ready for the demand of the sport. And that's a personal responsibility aspect too.
Oh God, I had one the other day, and like, God forbid anyone ever gets hurt or whatever. But when someone zigged when they should have zagged kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like I was passing someone's open guard and I had their leg shelved on my shoulder like they were going to try to triangle me. That's how I was going to do a dump pass. Well, when I did the dump pass, he went the other way. Like he rolled, he kind of like did the opposite of what I thought he was going to do. So it was my big ass chucking his knee against my head and then him going the other way, and he tore his MCL. And it was like,
oh no.
And I'm surprised there's not more injuries in what we do. And that comes down to having good training partners. I felt like a bad training partner in that moment, that I applied too much force or whatever. But at the end of the day, there's no such thing as bulletproof. And all we can do with the weight training is hope to reduce those chances of injury. And that guy was older. He's like 50, but he's in super good shape. And so it was a partial tear. Like, God forbid he wasn't resilient. He might have needed a knee replacement. Who knows?
Totally. But then I think it also, in terms of like saying you're surprised that like more people don't get injured, I think there is the athletic maturity component of knowing like when you're got, like when you need a tap, or like knowing how to anticipate, like I'm not in a good position. I'm really vulnerable. So I better be ready to tap. I'm not going to fight through this. That is just not worth it in training. And again, that's a huge piece of getting more mature in the sport, but also just more mature with like your own ego. And that's hard, especially I think it's hard when you have an athletic background where you're used to like pushing through and you're like, this is fine. I can withstand pain and discomfort. And then you're like, shit, I shouldn't have done that. You learn.
I don't know if you can tell. This elbow is hypermobile, like it extends further.
I do see that. Okay, so armbar okay, not on that side.
This elbow is as far as it can go. So it's like, I've fought too many arm bars when I should have tapped. So I'm guilty of it too.
So that's a jiu-jitsu.
I used to have a good bench press and not anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I have a few weird looking fingers and an ear. It's fine.
Mine are so crazy. It's called, apparently when they do this, both of them are curved. It's called a crane's head deformation. It's when the tendon is severed during it coming out of socket. And so mine came out of socket and then severed the tendon when I popped it back in. And so now it permanently curled like that. And it's funny.
So we're really doing a good job of selling this. Do jiu-jitsu. You're going to get weird ears and fingers, but your mental health will improve. You'll make friends.
Oh man, I'm doing great. I'm beat up, but I feel great.
I know that is, I guess in some ways.
Well, hey, right there. That's a perfect metaphor and analogy for what we all have to do in life anyway. Yeah, sometimes you're going to break your damn finger, but suck it up and keep, and take the good with the bad. That's kind of life, isn't it?
Yeah. It does develop that resilience and knowing like, well, you know what, like we're all going to be getting older and having issues. And I'd rather have my issues from living a really active, fun life that might come with a byproduct of like danger and injury than sitting on my couch and just couch rotting, which look, I'm for couch rotting sometimes, but I don't want to make that my personality,
I'll be the first. That's what also drives me crazy is when people say they don't have time. And I'm like, I have time to have a full-time job, have a very stressful, demanding job, have kids, come home. I still play video games too much. I train like 3 times a day, man. Like, you got time. I worked all damn day too. It's just a matter of the allocation of that time is the issue.
No kidding. And so like with that, you've also gone on to create some like coaching services and programs for jiu-jitsu athletes, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Well, because this isn't my full-time job, I've had to kind of I feel like I'm still just figuring out what I'm supposed to be doing with all this, to be honest with you.
Yeah. When you grow up.
Yeah. Like when I first started, I had what I would call kind of like a niche following, like where I had some like pretty notable people. It's from my connection with the new wave people.
Yeah.
I had a lot of association with that part of jiu-jitsu. And so when I first started, when I was like kind of in the 7,000-8,000 follower range, whatever, I was training a lot of people online.
Yeah.
I had, at any given time, I probably had 5 or 6 full-time, like, okay, when you lift, like FaceTime me if you want me to check your form, that kind of stuff. I did that for a long time. I simply didn't feel like I was doing my building career any justice by having to fixate on that so much.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what really puts food in my plate is building houses. And so while I do make some extra money from now, what I do is I sell programs that are just pre-written that are for, people generally have a pretty specific set of goal or a pretty standard set of goals. What do most people want to do? They want to look good naked and they want to perform on the mat. Okay, well, there you go. Right. I can do that. So I have some pre-written ones for sale that are great. And they're all 12-week programs. And some of them are geared towards the fact that most of my following and most of my people that are interested in buying a program from me are people like me that work a regular job, that have limited time and things like that. And so I wish people knew that you don't have to train like 5 times a week. You just go in there and get after it twice a week. I mean, ideally, would it be more? Yeah, sure. But like, that's what we were talking about earlier. Just because it's been a year since you did jiu-jitsu doesn't mean you throw the whole thing out. Just because you're only able to train 2 times a week, that doesn't mean you are spinning your wheels. You're still training. Right.
Yeah. There's again, if we're in this for the long game, which ultimately, again, jiu-jitsu reinforces so well, is that this is not a quick fix. This is not just a 4-year high school season or college season. It's something that you can keep doing, even if you have to take a step back in your volume and your intensity and your focus of it. It can stay with you and it never goes away. Even if you've been away for a while, you can always come back. And again, this is where you get that hard ego check of saying, well, I don't feel like a blue belt anymore. I don't feel like a purple belt anymore. Okay, it's okay to not be there. And everyone's version of what a purple belt or blue belt looks like for them is going to be different anyway. And it's, again, that athletic maturity to be put into a position where you get humbled and it's a hard ego check. But ultimately, those are the experiences that will make you a great athlete long term. That is how it is developed right there in those shitty seasons. That's how it's developed.
When you got your purple belt, how long did it take for you to skip warm up and smoke weed in the parking lot?
Well, I did notice I started to go to class a little bit later, but it's because my commute's a little bit longer. So not just because I'm
Oh,
a
you really
purple
did
belt.
start up later? Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. No weed in the parking lot. I have not rolled. I have not done jujitsu under the influence yet, but wouldn't that be like pop a little edible and and show up on the mat?
I eat edibles like in the evenings, not every day, just like something.
Yeah.
I'm 4.5 years sober from alcohol. And so I don't
Congratulations.
I cannot drink. Don't get me drinking. There's not enough black belts in the world to control drunk Ty. It's a dangerous person. And I just get real rowdy and make decisions. So I do still enjoy some gummies every now and then, but I don't like to get super stoned.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here with my daughter right now. I don't like I certainly not during the day. And so I know a lot of people that smoke every time they train, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
I have eaten a gummy and gone to jiu-jitsu a couple of times, but I don't really like it that much. But
oh God, I would just like sit there and like laugh and not be able to like do anything.
Oh, me neither. I'd be like focusing on something else. I know that much.
Yeah, for sure. That wouldn't be super productive for me in any capacity. But now, I mean, purple belt's been really fun for me. I feel like I'm enjoying jujitsu and having fun in it again. I put a lot of pressure on myself at blue belt and kind of like went full send and making it my whole part, like not my whole personality, but just like a little bit too much for what the rest of my life requires. Like I got to be high performing in multiple categories, which means jujitsu can't be the main thing. As much as I would like love to develop that still, because you get that fix of being an athlete where you're like, yeah, I know how to do this. I remember this. This feels good to train twice a day and to like be competing a lot and all that stuff. But for me, I needed to keep jujitsu fun, and I needed to be in an environment where I felt like I could build upon fun and having like really dialed in support that I needed to make jujitsu what it needed to be to fit into my life, which it's still very much a priority. I take it more seriously than probably most women my age, but it also works for me.
I take it maybe a little too seriously sometimes. That works for me because of my background. I don't think that's necessarily the right answer for a lot of people to put that kind of pressure on themselves. But
exactly,
for me, I am okay with that pressure. I'm okay with like you're a piece of crap. Get out there and train. I'm okay with that. I need that.
Yeah.
I'm in that 4-stripe blue belt formative phase too, where it's like, yeah, I can certainly give people a really hard time on the mat, even some of the high level guys. But you know what? The athletic maturity, like you talked about, it's hard to be the big guy sometimes because you are held to a little bit of a different standard. Because yeah, man, I can roll with a 220-pound black belt and probably eat his lunch because I'm 320 pounds. And so it was hard for me to process, like, okay, I'm beating most people. I don't have a purple belt yet. What? And I got really immature about it. I got really like a little kid about it. Like, man, this is BS.
Yeah, a little salty.
Yeah, a little salty. And then I don't know what it was, but like one day I just kind of realized that's not the point of this.
No.
And we're all human. And it takes a lot to trust that process of like, and you know what I realized? Maybe almost now, when that was going on, I was not a purple belt. Yeah, I wasn't, because I didn't have definitive game plan and a mindset that I was working with.
Right.
And that my professor, at least, his name is Lance Yeager at Select Jiu-Jitsu in Waco. He's awesome. I think it requires both kinds of coaching, and the kind of coaching that he has, to me, while he has some great specific techniques and things like that, he's very good at the big picture items, like kind of understanding the underlying principles behind everything. And that works really well for me. And I feel like I had to be honest with myself of like, are you really good at jiu-jitsu or are you just really damn big? And I was like, okay, fair enough. But
no, and I think that's so important because again, it makes you sort of get checked in like your identity as an athlete and your belief systems and why you're doing it, what you want out of it. And then again, just reinforcing the longevity of that sport is this is not a race. This is something that it is a gift to be in it and participate in it as much as we can, and then adapt it throughout all different seasons of life. Like, and I had to learn somewhere between blue and purple that like, I can't be thinking about competing year round. That does not work with my life. My kids have their own stuff. I have a big business to run. I have a lot of responsibilities. So, you know what? I'm going to compete between like a little bit of spring and then worlds in summer. And like, that's it. I cannot be a year round person who's competing because it just takes too much mental and physical energy for me. I can't do it. I'm on or I'm off. I'm all or nothing as a human in many ways. And I have to work with that part of my personality.
Oh man, you and I have a lot in common then, because
I know.
Trust me, I ain't scared. I'll go fight anybody. Let's go. Sign them up. It's not the fear of the actual competing. It's the fear of not being able to devote myself as purely as I would like to.
Yeah.
And to the competing and I need to be better about just saying, I do jiu-jitsu every day anyway. Just go compete, you know? I need to do that. And I've competed a little bit. I don't like waiting around all day. You talked about having ADHD earlier. Like I'm probably borderline, like neurodivergent autistic ADHD, where I get hyper-focused on things and whatever. And I don't take Adderall anymore. And I used to, and that used to kind of keep that at bay a little more. I'd be a little more normal. But now, like, I really, really want to compete, and I know I could do well. And I know it'd be a really good experience. It's just with these guys right here.
I know.
I'm a T-ball coach, basketball coach. That's 4 nights a week right there. And
I hear you.
Like, it's just hard. And
I know, because we have to like reassess, like, well, what does it even mean to compete? It's not necessarily like what it used to mean to compete. Now it's just like, all right, it's going to be, I tell myself it's another open mat. Like in that, like it takes the pressure off of myself where I'm like, yeah, I want to try hard. Obviously I've like invested financially and time wise, or if I've cut, like, all right, that's like a mental part of it for me.
I like that though.
Just saying like, you know, I'm going to go there. I'm going to have a round or 2 or 3, and it's going to be a really good source of feedback, but it doesn't take away from who I am at this point in my purple belt. It's not about her compared to her or compared to whatever rankings or whatever. It's just, I'm going to go, I'm going to show up, I'm going to learn something, and it is what it is. You know, whether I'm learning about like a weight cut process or a part of my game. Like I got owned in Worlds at in the semifinals with freaking worm guard. And I was like, damn, I just got owned by my own like gi. This sucks. So it's like, okay, like the lapel form of jiu-jitsu, lapel game. I was like, that is an area that I need to learn how to shut down.
Yeah.
But if you're not around certain styles and games, like in your own gym, then you might not have reps at that. And sometimes competing shows it. So again, it's your own like effort of self-development and just figuring out what works for you in terms of environment, training partners, coaches, competing, not competing, how to compete, cutting, not cutting. Like there's just so much to learn. And honestly, what an incredible opportunity that we even get to have this conversation as parents in our 30s, because like, again, athleticism doesn't end, even if it looks different. Like it's beautiful that this is something we still get to pursue, and that it didn't end with your football career. It didn't end with my water polo or CrossFit or powerlifting or triathlon or whatever. Like this is something we get to keep pursuing in just this unique way. And that's the special part of this sport.
Yeah. I don't have any way to explain to people that when people don't train, they don't understand, or like even my mom and my dad can empathize because they were athletes, right? They get it. They get the drive. They at least understand that part of it. I'm not religious. I'm agnostic. And so this is my religion in a sense of what drives me every day and what gives me like a sense of purpose beyond my, like for myself, beyond taking care of wife and kids and job and stuff like that. It's training, this jiu-jitsu. And how cool, like you said, that we get to ebb and I would like to think that when I'm 50, that I'll be better at jiu-jitsu than I am now. I think I will.
You will be.
Yeah.
You will be.
And that's crazy, right? Because that's true. I mean, like, you ever roll with that 50-year-old black belt? That guy's a monster. You know, he's terrifying. But
yeah, and they have everything to teach you too. So it's cool because it's like your growth isn't just in your athletic upside and potential and how good you get at black belt, but it's what you've learned over the course of being in that sport for so long and the life that you've created throughout that process. So there's so much more to like, I think that black belt and very experienced black belt experience or process where then you're really getting to teach and to share and to give back in a lot of ways where ultimately like your process in jiu-jitsu is becoming the best version of a coach. Like you're becoming a coach.
I love to coach. I love to teach. I love any opportunity. And I know a couple things that are very much so big guy jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
That I always get excited to share with other people, that other big guys, because I'm like, hey, look, this will work. Like, it doesn't work for that guy, but it'll work for you, buddy. I promise. And
yeah,
I love that so much. I think that the one thing I am very excited to get a purple belt for is, and then this is totally an arbitrary statement, but I am excited for purple belt to be able to feel like I actually can coach and teach. I feel like when a blue belt starts telling me something, I'm like, no, brother, like, I don't even, whatever. But when a purple belt tells you something, that person has been on, they didn't quit at blue belt.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm excited to, you talked about being able to help families and stuff like that. I really want to, I have a lot of interest in teaching the self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu, but.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then there's just so many different directions we can take that. And then again, it's like such a cool thing to discover later in life. Like, you know, maybe like my boys started at 4 and that's a gift that they're going to get to have. But this is something I didn't start till my early 30s. And I'm just grateful that I found it when I did. And it's just been such a gift. So I'm so glad that we connected. And social media, man, it's so powerful when used for the greater good. And I know that that's exactly what you're using it for. I've enjoyed stumbling upon your stuff and your content. I think it's just great content to put out there. And thank you for sharing everything today.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you too. And so I think if there's more jiu-jitsu practitioners like you, then the whole community is in good hands. You seem like you've got it figured out. So,
well, we have a good time exploring and learning a lot, you know, getting your ass kicked in the arena, quite literally. So
I'll come up to Boise on that mountain lion hunt and then we'll get some rolling or something.
Thanks for talking. I appreciate it.
Okay. Sounds good. See you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Practice Brave podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review and help us spread the work we are doing to improve the overall information and messaging in the fitness industry and beyond. Now, if you are pregnant and you are looking for a trustworthy exercise program to follow, I have you covered. The Pregnant Athlete Training Program is a well-rounded program for pregnancy with workouts for each week that are appropriate for your changing body. That's 36 weeks of workouts, 3 to 4 workouts each week, and tons of guidance on exercise strategy. We also have an at-home version of that program. If you are postpartum and you're looking for an exercise program to follow, the 8-week postpartum athlete training program would be a really great way to help bridge the gap between rehab and the fitness you actually want to do. From there, we have the Practice Brave Fitness program, which is an ongoing strength and conditioning program where you get new workouts each week and have a lot of guidance from myself and my co-coach, Heather Osby. This is the only way that I'm really offering ongoing coaching at this point in time. If you have ever considered becoming a certified pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coach, I would love to have you join us. Pregnancy and Postpartum Athleticism is a self-paced online certification course that will up-level your coaching skills and help connect the dots between pelvic health and long-term athletic performance, especially during pregnancy and postpartum. Become who you needed and become who your online and local community needs by becoming a certified pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coach. Thank you again for listening to the Practice Brave podcast. I appreciate you. And please help me continue spreading this messaging, this information, and this work.